Hello everybody, thank you for your time that you've given me today, or if I was presenting to Brazilians, I might say obrigado para o tempo. Now, today we are going to be presenting on the country of Brazil and its economic status as it relates to foreign investors. My name is Matt Switzer. Today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about aspects of tourism. We are all expats who have all lived in Brazil for at least 5 years. Today, Caroline is going to be talking a little bit about the government of Brazil. Isa is going to be talking about the economy of Brazil. Kayla is going to be talking about the infrastructure, and Brazil is going to be talking about the culture. I'm going to go back real quick and say this is Caroline Penka, this is Isa Holmeyer, this is Kayla Buchanan, this is Brazil Garza. And as I stated, my name is Matt, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the culture. One of the main things that influence tourism is the festival Carnival that takes place once a year all around the world. And this especially takes place in Brazil. Luis Filo, which is a superintendent for the Department of Economic Development for the state of Rio de Janeiro, estimates that in 2012, Carnival, which just ended last month, drew 850,000 visitors to the state of Rio de Janeiro alone, which contributed to $628 million to the economy. He also estimates that the number for the country as a whole would be $3.2 billion into the economy from Carnival alone. And that's $628 million into Rio de Janeiro is a 12% increase over the money contributed from last year. Next, another aspect of tourism is soccer. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with the sport. It's very popular around the world, not necessarily in America. In 2014, the World Cup will be held in Brazil, and it is estimated that $5.5 billion in revenue will be generated over probably a span of about 2 to 3 months. So that's a lot of money and not a lot of time. It's going to be really good for that government. Also, the website Portals, I looked that up, and it said they estimate that 70% of the renovations that are supposed to be done taking place in Brazil for the 2014 World Cup are not going to be ready. So that is one aspect to think about if you're planning on making that trip there. That being said, that was also said about many Olympics in the past and also other World Cups, and it ended up that they got everything done with. So we'll see how that turns out. Once again, I'd like to say I went over tourism, specifically the aspects of the Festival of Carnival, how that impacts the economy, as well as soccer, specifically the World Cup, and how that affects the economy. Now I'm going to hand it off to Caroline Penka, who's going to talk a little bit about our government.
Okay, good afternoon. Again, my name is Caroline Penka. I am a former legislative aide for the Brazilian Senate, and today I'm going to cover with you a brief overview of the structure of the Brazilian government, some background information on the current president, and the current state of foreign relations in Brazil. So Brazil's government is a federal republic. It's pretty similar to the United States government. It has 3 branches, the executive, judicial, and legislative branches. Brazil is made up of 26 states and a federal district. The legislative branch is a little bit different than in the United States. It has 81 senators, and they serve 8-year terms, but in order to keep the political climate from getting stagnant, what they do is once every 4 years, 2/3 of the House will be up for election, and then another 4 years later, 1/3 will be up for an election. There are also over 15 major political parties, so there's a lot of different opinions about how the country should be run. The current president is Dilma Hanna Rousseff. She is the country's first female president, and she's had a long career in politics. Starting when she was 23, she was arrested and imprisoned for 3 years for protesting the military government that was in place in the 1970s. After she was released, she became a founding member of the Democratic Labor Party, and she continued to work her way up in the political world until in 2001 she was appointed by the current president in 2001 to be the Minister of Mines and Energy. She created the Light for All program, which provided 11 million Brazilians who live in rural areas or on the outskirts of large cities with electricity that they didn't have before. In October of 2010, she won a runoff election with 56 million votes to become the current president, so she's pretty well liked by the people. President Rousseff has continued Brazil's place as a leader in improving relations between countries in South America. Brazil is a founding member of the Latin American Integration Association, the Union of South American Nations, and Mercosur, which is a customs union of 9 South American countries. Brazil has also contributed troops to UN peacekeeping missions in the Middle East and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and also most recently in Haiti. Brazil is also a G20 member and is a creditor to the IMF. They are also a non-hostile country. They recently ratified the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and they signed into a full-scale nuclear safeguard agreement. So just to summarize today, I talked to you about the structure of the Brazilian government, some background information on the current president, and the status of foreign relations. So now I'm going to hand it off to Isa, who will talk about the economy.
As Caroline said, my name is Isa Homeyer, and I'm a financial advisor, an expat who worked as a financial advisor in Brazil for many businesses. Today I'm going to talk to you about the economy and different components that make up the economy, which is the gross domestic product, the exchange rate, and imports and exports. As of today, Brazil's economy is more diverse and stronger than it has ever been in previous years, and it is experiencing a 6.9% inflation rate. And to start off with the economy, I'm going to begin with the GDP. Their GDP growth is due to their many industries, which include farming, manufacturing, and service sectors. Their GDP growth is, according to economic statistics, is due to increases in productivity, increases in farming practices, and increases in expansion of cultivated areas. Most of their GDP is from the service sector, which is when the service sector contributes 56.9% to their GDP. And the World Cup is going to be held there, and it's expected to increase their economy, or their GDP by 1.5%. Brazil's economic success is due to their long-term gains from their macroeconomic practices, which includes a floating exchange rate, tight fiscal restraints, and inflation targeting. And now that I've talked a little bit about the GDP, I'm going to talk to you about the exchange rate. Brazil's currency is called the real. When it's on financial statements or income statements, it's represented by an R and a dollar sign, or an abbreviation of BRL. The real is made up of 100 centavos, which is equivalent to 100 pennies. Like 100 centavos is equal to 1 real, just as 100 pennies is equal to $1. Over the past year, the real, like in 2011, it was the exchange rate for US dollars. For $1 US was equivalent to 1.67 Brazilian reals. And over the years, the US dollar value has decreased from 2.18 to 1.6 over the span of 5 years, from 2006 to 2011. And today, in 2012, it's increased to 1.92. And the most popular exchange rate for Brazilians is the US dollar. And now that I've talked to you about the exchange rate and the gross domestic product, I'm going to talk to you about the imports and exports. Brazil is has an exporting-oriented economy, which means that they rely heavily on their exports to bring in revenue. Some of Brazil's major exports are iron ore, soybeans, auto parts, machinery, and sugar. And sugar is their main export, which they contribute 40% of the world's sugar supply in different world markets. Car companies are interested in doing business with Brazil because of their large mineral reserves, and their manufacturing companies produce cars, software, electronics, and steel. And Brazil has the largest deposits for iron ore and manganese and iron and steel, and their mineral reserves are scattered all around the country. Brazil is a leading producer of iron and steel, and their exports contribute to 14% of their GDP. Their imports are worth $17.4 billion in US money, and these imports include electrical and transport equipment, electronics, auto parts, and chemical products. And based on the imports and exports, you can tell that Brazil is a huge service and manufacturing country. And today I've talked to you about Brazil's GDP, their exchange rate, and imports and exports, and how it's affected their economy. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kayla, and she's going to talk to you about the infrastructure of Brazil.
Thank you, Isa. As Matt said, my name is Kayla, and I have been living in Brazil for 5 years, and I have done extensive research on the infrastructure of Brazil. So what I'll be talking to you about today is its transportation system, its communication system, and a new investment for its infrastructure to come. So the roadways in Brazil have 1.25 million miles. This is a lot, but there is, it is said that there's 30% of bad conditions on the roadways. And railways have been declining. It is said that 21% of freight is transported and 58% are used on roadways. Also, the waterways, there is 50,000 kilometers of navigable inland waterways, but they are not often used, so this is kind of a downgrade on the transportation. For the communication system, it ranks number 7 in internet use worldwide. Broadband is becoming more popular. The use of telephones is always increasing. They do use main lines still, but mobile cellulars are becoming more popular with 80 million people using them. Also, television and radio are used, but not predominant as internet and telephones. The infrastructure investment that I talked about is for the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympic Games. Brazil is faced with improving their infrastructure. They are going to $18 billion for the investment, and it has already started. It started in 2008 and will go to 2013. The transportation system is going to be their primary target, as well as urban areas, sporting facilities, and tourism areas. Again, I covered the transportation system, the communication system, and how it's growing, and then also the new investment that Brazil has on their infrastructure. And I'll hand it over to Brazil to talk about culture.
Good afternoon, my name is Grisel, and I'm a sociologist with an expertise on Brazilian culture, and I'm going to be talking to you about the 3 important aspects of the culture, which include the language, the religion, and business etiquette. First of all, the language. Like most of us know, Brazil's national language is Portuguese. According to the CIA website, Portuguese is spoken in 9 different countries, and it is the 6th most worldwide spoken language. And that creates a problem sometimes because not a lot of people speak Portuguese, and the majority of these people live in Brazil. And out of the other 9 countries, they're very small and they're not involved in international business. And moving on to, and other languages that are also spoken include Spanish in the outside borders and in school, German, Japanese, Italian, and English, of course. Moving on to religion. Brazil is known as a very religious country, with Christ the Redeemer, the 130-foot statue, being one of the most popular symbols. And 73.6% of the population consider themselves Roman Catholic, according to the 2000 census. This makes up Brazil has the largest population of Roman Catholics in the whole entire world. And the rest of the population is like 15% is Protestant, and the other ones are other types of religions. And Brazil is also the most diverse Latin American country when it comes to religion. And of course, The religion affects business because since they're so religious, they take every Christian holiday off. So that's important for if you're trying to make meetings or go invest in the country. It's important for you to know these facts. Lastly, business etiquette. Just like every other country, Brazil has its different customs. First of all, they prefer face-to-face communication opposed to telephone conferences or emails because they want to know exactly who they're making business with. They want to know about the person. They care more about the person than they do about the business as a whole. So if you're one of the most prestigious companies in the world, that doesn't matter. It matters who you're actually sending. Second, they take their time negotiating and they make sure they look at details. And you have to take this into consideration if you're trying to get contracts fast. That's not going to happen in Brazil. And of course, they like to use local lawyers and accountants because that's who they trust. Like I stated previously, language is very important for them, so it's good if you learn basic Portuguese phrases before you go. And lastly, depending on the region you're in Brazil, that's where time matters. If you're in Brasilia or if you're in the area of Brasilia, you can be 30 minutes late to a meeting and it'll be fine. But if you're in other regions such as Rio de Janeiro, they actually care about time and punctuality. So overall, I spoke to you about the different aspects of Brazil's culture, which includes language, religion, and business etiquette, and how they affect business as a whole. So to sum it all up, my colleagues and I today gave you a brief insight into Brazil's culture. Of course, Matt gave us a little bit of tourism, including the carnival and soccer. Caroline let us know about the government and about the international relations. Isa let us know about the stability of the economy and the GDP. Kayla let us know about the infrastructure, specifically on telecommunications and transportation. And lastly, I let you know about Brazil's culture, which includes language, religion, and business etiquette. After our extensive research, we've come up that even though Brazil is a very friendly culture and they're open to international business, at the moment their tax rates for international firms are very high, reaching up to 67%. And they have a lot of regulatory restrictions that are not beneficial for you as an investor. Hopefully this information has been very useful, and for your future investments in Brazil. I thank you all for joining us today, and if anyone has any questions at this moment, we're glad to take them. Okay, last year, hurry up.